And welcome on back to Workshop Wednesday. I'm Chelsea Bussemeyer. Thanks for joining me today in my workshop. And if you would like to replace your zipper slider, the part that slides up and down on your zipper, then this video is for you. And this video is a special request video from Jerry. So shout out to you. He watched my tutorial on how to fix a splitting zipper. So if you have a zipper that's splitting, always coming apart behind the zipper pull, I have a video for you on that topic as well. And in that video, we do discuss how to kind of adjust the slider itself. Now, sometimes the slider will break and the zipper pull will actually come right off, or the slider itself will come right off. So this is when you're going to need to actually find a new zipper slider. Before you purchase a new one, however, you're going to want to know what you need to look for. So first things first, zippers are different gauges. So the actual size of the teeth or width of the teeth are varying gauges, and that's how they're measured. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the statistics of how those gauges are set out in different brands, because depending on the brand of your zipper, there's going to be kind of a different scale and different numbers associated with it. And you can even switch out your zipper pull for a pull or a slider that isn't the same brand as the teeth. What you want to look for is you want a slider that the teeth can run really nice in between these two lines. So if you look at your slider here, you'll want to measure just right in between the two little edges, right here and then on the other side. Because what we want is we want those teeth to just barely pass through in between. If the teeth are too loose in between there, they might not actually mesh together when you do up your zipper. If it's too tight, you're going to have a really hard time pulling your zipper up and down and possibly break your slider again too quickly. So when you go to your zipper, if it's still closed, it's easy to measure your teeth this way. If they're already separate, it's a little trickier because you need to calculate for the amount where they overlap. So it's much easier to measure the gauge of the teeth themselves when they're closed together. And that measurement just simply needs to match up with your zipper slider. Now, when you go to actually replace it, it depends on the type of zipper you have. Here, this zipper I use actually in an example. I replaced the slider on this one on another video. The topic was shortening the zipper. So it's similar to replacing the slider in that we need to remove our zipper stops here. That's why this side is shorter here. So it's super handy if you have some zipper stops. You can get them, purchase them, and just have extra ones kicking around your studio. You can reuse them. So I'm just going to pop this one off here. So I'm just getting my pliers kind of in between the two sides and bending it apart, loosening it. There we go. So it just pops off. So yeah, if you don't bend it and it like totally break, like if you squeeze too hard, it can easily pop off, or when you're tightening the zipper stop again, it can also break. So sometimes reusing them doesn't always work, which is why it's handy to have some extra ones kind of kicking around. So on this type of zipper, since it's a separable zipper, I would definitely replace the zipper stop on the top. So you only need to take off the zipper stopper on the side where it has this thicker bottom portion, because on the other side, it's of course going to slide into the slider when you do it up. So we don't actually need to mess with the second side at all. Once we have that zipper stopper taken off, you can take off the old one if it's still on there, and then simply put on your new one. You might want to give it a test quick too, just before you put the zipper stopper back on, just to make sure that it is going to slide nicely and keep your zipper closed. And it's as easy as that when it's a separating zipper. So this zipper pull I'm really happy with, the slider. So I've just lined up the teeth at the top so that it's the same length again on both sides. And I'm just simply going to replace this original stopper on here. Give it a little tiny bit of space there after the last tooth. And I like to just try and catch the very edge. So rather than pinching the whole thing, I like to just pinch the bottom edge so that this side here, that this front side here can stay nice and round. If you pinch on the whole thing, then it will more likely like break in half, and then you won't be able to use it. But if you can just kind of crimp it back on, then you'll be golden. Now this here is a conventional chain zipper with the metal teeth. And if you have any questions as to zippers, especially when you're like looking at the zipper rack, maybe trying to purchase a zipper for a project you're working on, there are quite a few different styles. And I do actually have a workshop that I teach. I'll put the link in the description here where you can get yourself a recording of that workshop where we go over all of the different styles, your most common kind of zipper pitfalls when installing the zipper, and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in that, pop down to the description box after and get yourself a copy. So here I just wanted to put these other zippers on the table so we can look at a few different types of stops, zipper stoppers and zipper pulls that you might run into. So here, this one is also a chain zipper, but it has plastic zipper stops. So if you have plastic zipper stops on your zipper, then you won't be able to reuse them. You can usually like just break them off. So once again with a plier, I'm not going to do it here, but break it off so that you can easily get your slider off without wrecking any of your teeth. And then let's look at this one. So this one doesn't separate at the bottom. I did already take off the zipper stopper, but you can see that this one is a little bit scratched now, and that's always the problem when you remove a painted zipper stopper. So it's sometimes nicer to just go with the metal ones, and if you buy replacement ones, you won't be able to get all the different colors anyways, so just having metal ones in your workshop is good enough. So if you want to replace a slider on a zipper that's closed end, you can take off each side at the top and slide it on the top, but that really only works well if your zipper is closed. So depending on how your original slider broke, if the zipper is already closed, then that works really well. If it's open, however, it doesn't work as well because when you slide the new pull on the top, you have to slide both ends into the zipper, and it should be closed below your zipper slider. So it's really hard. I'm sure you've all experienced that too if you have a split zipper, when you're trying to get that zipper pull back down and those teeth aren't meshed, and it's just really tricky. So if you want to fight it all the way down, you can slide it on the top, but I'm going to show you another method. So your zipper stoppers at the bottom will look a little bit different. This one has kind of 2 teeth on the one side and 1 tooth on the other. This is a common metal stopper at the bottom. So I'm just going to once again kind of bend those teeth out, get it to come off. Let go. You want to kind of wedge, oh, we got it off one side. Wedge your plier kind of in between the pull and the teeth to bend them open. Come on. I crimped it on too good. Okay. There we go. So now we have our stopper off, and if your pulley's old one is still on, then you can just simply slide it off the end and then slide your new one on. So the key is when you're replacing a slider on a zipper where you need it on both sides of your zipper, is you need to make sure that it's lined up. So you don't want to have your zipper slider pulled back on and then the top of your zipper not match up because you've pulled one end farther through at the bottom before the teeth have started meshing than the other side. So what you'll want to do is you just slide it in kind of halfway through. So in this tighter section at the bottom where you've measured your gauge, that's where those teeth start to mesh together. So just slide your zipper in as far as that area where the teeth start meshing. Then you'll want to slide in the other half. And after you have both of them aligned so that it's nice and even, then pull them through. And this is a little fiddly, but try pulling them through at the same speed. So here we go. I've got those teeth now meshing, and I actually have a slight bit of disalignment. So this is a great example. If your teeth aren't lined up at the bottom, this one side slid in a little faster. So we just need to unzip it again and make sure that they come down into the zipper slider nicely lined up. So here we can see that the end of our teeth are nicely lined up, and then we can just simply close it. So if you can reuse your zipper stopper if it's not broken or too bent. Again, you can always put a new one on. If you don't have a new one, then you can just, grab a piece of fabric, stitch over it. If you want it to be nice and clean, fold it around nicely. There's 101 ways that you can finish off the end. Just get creative. The main thing is you don't want your zipper pull to always pull off when you're opening and closing your zippers. So you need something to stop that slider. Now let's look at another zipper, invisible zippers. So this one, again, I already cut the end off since I already shot this. But I just cut the zipper stopper off for invisible zippers. They're usually melted together. So these are coil zippers. This one here is also a coil zipper. I go over all of that in my zipper workshop. Yeah, and here at the top, we once again have plastic stoppers. So they cannot be taken off and reused. But this again is a zipper that has both sides attached to the slider at all times. So it's easier to replace an invisible zipper from the bottom as well. Now the other thing that makes an invisible zipper unique is that the teeth are on the back side of the zipper. So on regular zippers, the teeth will always be on the front of the zipper tape. On the invisible zipper, because we want the edge of the fabric to line up and look like a seam and be invisible, the teeth themselves are on the back side, so your slider is going to be shaped slightly differently. So if we take this slider off and have a little quick look at it, you can see it has this V on the top. So it has an opening here rather than the opening on the side. Usually your slider will have the opening on the side. So this is how you know it's an invisible zipper slider. And what we want to do here is measure it the same way. The teeth need to fit in, but invisible zippers don't vary as much. I have seen fatter, thicker ones, but mostly in most shops you'll find a pretty standard fine zipper for these types. Now to slide it in, you want that zipper tape, the actual webbing, to just slide in that groove and the teeth to be in the slider itself. And here once again you'll want to make sure that you have good alignment so that your zipper is nice and square at the top. Invisible zippers are a little bit trickier to kind of get started. Let's see. It's the same idea as the other coil zipper, and there we go. So in here, once again, just finish off the end. Oftentimes when you're using an invisible zipper, you'll have a little bit of extra hanging down into your garment, and so you don't actually need to finish it off because the zipper pull, once you close it, won't be able to get back to the end. But it is nice, especially if you don't want it to fray at the bottom. Okay, so we've got a couple more tips to cover here on replacing your slider. But before we get to those, if you've actually run into a scenario where your zipper is totally busted and you need to replace it, or you are sewing and installing zippers in other garments, or maybe even avoiding garments or projects with zippers, don't let that stop you anymore. Zippers don't need to be a nemesis. They can be really easy. They are so useful. That's why we find them in so many articles and items today. is just because they are so handy to use. So if you need a little bit of extra instruction on picking your zipper, maybe you're always questioning the method to install the zipper, then you need a copy of my zipper workshop. We go over everything from start to finish, picking your zipper and the most common pitfalls. You don't need a step-by-step tutorial on how to install a specific type of zipper. It's great when you're first starting and you have no idea, but each project is so unique that if you just master one method of installation, you're not actually going to be utilizing zippers to their full potential and getting as much out of them as you could. So the best thing you can do for yourself is just learn what the common pitfalls and mistakes are, how to avoid them, and how to align the perfect zipper for your fabric and your project, and you will be golden, I promise. So the link for that workshop is in the description, as I mentioned earlier, and let's look at a couple specialty zippers. Now this zipper stopper here is also important to know how to navigate. It's also a metal one, and it kind of almost has an H profile. So it's flat on both sides. Unfortunately, I don't have a zipper that's loose and I didn't want to unstitch this one. But what you need to know here is to remove it, you'll want to have a plier similar to this, that it has a nice sharp edge on both sides so that you can nestle in between the two halves. So both sides of this zipper stop look identical and the edges just pinch around, holding that webbing again from the zipper. So you'll just want to slide your pliers in like this and make sure that you're going in between the metal. Otherwise, you'll bend the metal up and you'll lose a side of the stopper and again, won't be able to reuse it. So you really want to make sure that your pliers is kind of cutting in the soft area where the fabric is in between both halves and how it pinches together. And same thing to close it, you just need to pinch both sides back over top of the tape from the zipper. Now, if you would like a video with a step-by-step instructions how to install a zipper, check out the other videos on my channel. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss anything, and leave me a comment and maybe I'll make you a video next time on a topic, anything around sewing, zippers. Jump over to my Facebook group. You can also leave me a message there, Sew with Chelsea, and I'd love to chat more with you about sewing.